Hit and the thing since we're live. Hey guys, what's going on? Memes here, and I'm joined for the second time by Branden, aka Next from the Theories of Everything and now apparently the Theories of Nothing community. It seems like we're weaving a paradox. Who could have ever done such a thing? But I was listening to your discussion with James the other day, and I feel terrible because I should have looked into it more because I remember our discussion. It just was literally like it was actually under an hour. It's like you concisely answered pretty much everything I had, and then you all were talking about categories the other day, and I'm like, categories. I heard a lot of folks like Jonathan, I think like Jose, and a bunch of other folks from the Wolfram live streams talking about category theory. I also had somebody on one of the unofficial Portal Discords way back in the day, oh god, at least a couple of years ago now, say, well, if we're ever going to hit artificial general intelligence, we need to figure out category theory. And the longer we go, the more I'm thinking that might actually be the case. But we got uncompetitive here. Welcome, my friend. Thank you for joining us and all those who may join now or temporally in the future as well. Because with the internet, we can be time travelers, I claim. At least we can see in the past and maybe get an inkling of what may be to come a little bit there. But past is prologue, future is now. I claim. But it came down to you all were talking, and at some point you just kind of just like a digital wizard. You're like, well, that falls within this particular category here. And I'm like, I really feel that's it, just as like human beings, and I'll even harken back to Professor Jordan Peterson's first book, Maps of Meaning, because at one point in that, it's probably one of the most useful books I've listened to the first half of, and it just kind of goes through. It's like, well, what if you were just a rat? It's like, all right, well, if you're a rat, it's like all of a sudden you hear a sound. Oh my God, is something going to kill me? Is it going to eat me? And all of a sudden you see a smell, or yes, you see a smell. Sometimes you can see a smell, but you smell a smell, you see different things. And if it's a novel occurrence, it's like, what is this thing? It's like, is it going to eat me? Can I eat it? Can I mate with it? I don't know. Like these seem like very basic functions that are inground to life as we know it. And it sounds like as a person that's done a fair bit of observation and introspection in your life, you've developed a particular set of categories. I'd like to explore them with you.
Absolutely. I'm into it. Yeah.
All right, where should we begin?
Hmm. Well, I guess we could kind of stem off from what you've seen of James' video and try and see the other six categories that did not go mentioned.
Could we briefly go through, because I think there's a total of 9 you have
Yeah.
primarily, and then there might be subcategories and stuff, or
Well,
mixtures or
not
flavors.
necessarily. Yeah, they're mixtures. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So
Start from the beginning.
yeah, the way I choose to, as a preface, I will say that this system of categories is just that. It's just a system. It is just how I choose to organize information, especially about cognition. And this is something that has developed over the course of several years from doing a bunch of art and writing and a lot of thinking and observation, of course. But the ways I choose to break it all down is through three. Well, yes, firstly, three domains, and the domains would be aspects of existence. And these aspects would be classified as follows: physical, logical, and tonal. Physical is the things that are, just I describe it as being in and of itself. It is substance. It is what is ultimately there, period, and nothing more. And then we go into the logical, which is the motions of things explicitly, only the motions and their trajectories, and also coinciding with actions and the concept of doing. And then the tonal would be the emotional. It would be connection, context, bonds, etc. And it is just that explicitly. Now, taken all together, that's what I think composes existence. Being, action, and relation. And those are the domains. Then we go into the other axis, which is, I believe I called it stages. And the stages are broken down into the specific dynamic process of how cognition, from my point of view, works. And I would define cognition as the means in which the individual takes in, processes, and uses information. And I do believe that it goes in that exact order. So,
could you say that one more time?
Oh, it would be cognition would be how the individual takes in, processes, and uses information.
So kind of like the old adage of one's using a firearm. Ready, aim, fire. As somebody that's played some online FPSs, I didn't always do that. Continue, sir.
Me either.
All right, we have that in common. Cool.
Yep,
all right, go on.
But yeah, and I chose to break down the stages in 3 categories as well. It would be expression, discernment, and impression. When it comes to the individual expressing, well, that's like technically the last stage, but expression also coincides with how the individual sort of engages with other things that are expressed to them. So expression functions as the input as well as the output, while discernment and impression, discernment firstly, is the comparing and contrasting of the information between what is coming in and what is already there, what is already impressed upon the body itself. And impression itself is just the body as it is, as it's presented in the structure that it continues to move through. Because bodies don't really, well, they obviously change, right? But they always adhere to the structure that it's in, and you don't see people just kind of shape shifting into, like, I don't know, octopi or whatever.
Or occasionally a cartoon dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. they don't
do point not withheld. Continue.
Yep. But yeah, those are the 3 stages: expression, discernment, and impression. And that is how I set the basis for all of the 9 categories. 3 categories there and 3 going horizontally.
That's very fascinating. Just because, again, from what I've seen of some of Tyler's thing, I think he kind of has, like, I don't necessarily want to say a dualistic approach, because that's going to have a different flavor to it, but he kind of has, like, the 2 here and the 2 here, like, inness or oneness, separateness. He's kind of just like doing the self-reflection of those, and it sounds like you're kind of utilizing it in more of, I don't know, like the bingo way, and that you're lining these up, but we can also go this way, we can cross this way as well. I think a lot of us we're kind of talking about the same thing. We're just coming at it from different angles, different perspectives as well, and what is different ways may resonate better with a different person depending on how they live their life, depending on their particularities as a human being and everything. And that's why I find it fascinating, just because as soon as you start talking categories, I'm just like, does category theory strike again? I had to say it because I put it down as that's a fact in the description, so I felt I needed to actually say that saying. But well, that's the thing. It's like, how do we discern things? It's like, all right, cat. Well, what is a cat? It's like, my cat probably looks a lot different than a lot of other people's cats. There are probably a lot of other folks that have cats like that. Other folks have cool tabbies. Maybe they have a Mancoon or stuff like that. But the category of cat, but the category of cat, it's okay. What are you going to say? It's a small fuzzy thing? Well, then you got the Sphinx cats. They don't actually have any hair and stuff. So I think it actually goes down to the biological thing where it's like, all right, you have a particular jaw structure and everything. I think all cats have whiskers or some form of whiskers or something, that, unless they lose them or anything. Not all cats necessarily have tails, because we had a Manx that, well, technically he had a little stub. Um, but that's the thing. There's a certain level. I think claws and different things, because other than that, it's like, well, what's a dog? Well, a dog is bigger than a cat. Yeah, I've seen dogs that are smaller than my cat. So it's like, how do we actually go to categorize these things? And I remember on one of Professor Wolfram's live streams, they were kind of talking about it's like there was yeah, he actually spoke about it a little bit the other day too. But basically, for different image recognition, like, oh, is this a cat? This is a dog. These large learning machines and modules and everything, for them to work before, because people had to come up with these in, like, I think like the 40s or 50s or something, and it's like they never really amounted to anything. And then one day, probably like, I think it was 15 or 20 or so years ago, somebody, they were feeding in like 100 or 1,000 different things. Essentially, somebody left the machine on while someone was on vacation. It ended up sampling thousands and tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 things, like far greater, larger a set than people had considered. And apparently, at that point, you could tell the difference between a cat and a dog. Essentially, maybe not exactly that, but it took some level of critical mass for it to actually break through. And I mean, that seems kind of fascinating, and maybe it's kind of something like us as human beings too, because I don't know about you, but I know, I have run into at least, I'm pretty sure, more than one little kid where it's like, if it's a small fuzzy animal, it's a kitty. You have to be careful about that, because even my co-host Fizz, she's a wolf girl. Do not call her a kitty. She does not take being misspecies well. But cool. Not, categories you were talking about, that basically the impression. The last was impression. What was it? Expression. Say that one more time.
Expression, discernment, and then impression. Yep.
Okay. Now, are you talking about for that actual person themselves, or are you talking about like other folks out there as well?
It would.
Well, is this coming from the person themselves, or is it a combination of like you as an observer putting this together, and then someone else is actually? I'll just let you elaborate.
Oh, sure. Well, since it is something that I thought up, it is something that is pretty much applied to the individual. If I wish to, try and know more about them on some other level, it beyond that, it doesn't go any further. If the individual wishes to know more about the structure or the framework, then they can either accept or deny that this applies to them, which is what coincides with the 10th category, which is, the thing that is outside of the system, the observer, the one observing this entire framework and choosing whether or not they wish to be in any of it, right?
So, when you say if they're going to be in it, who are you referring to?
Anyone, really. Anyone that wishes to know about it.
Oh. Now, are you talking about the actual process of communication there, or are you talking about like this particular description? Basically, are you talking about like your ontology? I'm sorry, I was slightly distracted. I opened Discord. I was trying to figure out where the heck to post this in theories of nothing. I came to ontology and I was questioning myself. So I only heard, basically, when you say if somebody wants to be a part of it, are you talking about that person outside the initiator of that expression, or are you talking about this basically categorization of the world?
Yes, the categorization of the world.
Gotcha. Cool. I chose ontology. That seems fitting. But, okay. How many have we gotten through right now? Have we gotten through 2 or 5?
That sets up just the structure. That is the introduction to where everything is placed.
Okay.
The categories that I mentioned with James was within the tonal domain, which is, emotion, connection, etc. And then it went all the way down through expression, discernment, and impression for all of those. So in order, it would be harmony for tonal expression, resonance for tonal discernment, and will for tonal impression. So you have the full process for how connections are processed for an individual in this system.
Okay. So, could you give us an example of each one of those?
Yeah. Um, Whenever I try to describe these categories, I try to make a personification of them because that's the easiest way to do it. Um, but I will try and describe the basic function of each one since I actually have that written down now. So, harmony is I believe it was the noticing and display of symmetry, which is, if you were to personify harmony, it would be somebody that is able to notice and display a a symmetrical connection between someone. That is, if someone is being polite to them, they will be polite back. If someone is crying, they will lower themselves and try to, uh, connect with them a little bit better. If someone is mad at them, they will also in turn get pretty angry or irritated and just kind of mirror the responses that they notice and receive from some other source. Um,
I see. I thought we just used to call those manners.
yeah, it coincides with that.
Oh, speaking of manners, hey Lucy.
Hey, Lucy.
We also have a question. Where does qualia come in?
Qualia comes in. That is that coincides with expression. That's
I totally
the
forget what that
noticing
means. I
aspect.
usually just use Google when I see it. I know it's a thing. It's one of the core things. I just don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, to me, qualia is just content. That's what everything is. It's
Well, there
having
you go. Yeah,
empathy.
Jack. So yeah,
Yeah,
empathy.
there we
No,
go. That's a better word.
empathy is a
Yeah,
pretty good thing.
that is empathy.
Is that
Yeah,
one of the categories?
that's basically what harmony is. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a reason you chose harmony over empathy?
I wanted the categories names to be
Because
almost
empathy,
opposite.
I feel like harmonizing could probably be broader than empathy because empathy is pretty. It's like, all right, if somebody's having something that's bad happen, it's usually implied that you're empathizing with somebody because usually something negative has happened. Whereas harmonizing, you could say that is inclusive of empathy, but at the same time, it's like if somebody's excited because they just they finally got their book published that they meant to do for so long, and they're so happy about it and everything. So you'd harmonize, but oh yeah, that's cool, my dude, and stuff like that. Okay, no, I get you, jive.
Yep, yep. Then we go to resonance.
Cool.
Resonance is the comparison and contrast of compatibility and belonging in any context or any connection or bond. And a personification of that, I, well, often see the individual that is constantly looking for belonging or some space to belong to, and always sort of not entirely sure how they fit in with certain groups of people. They just kind of flutter about between different communities, and they see what they feel they belong to, and that's the general function of that. Resonance is just comparing and contrasting connections and contexts. That's all there, and will would be the embodiment of connection. I believe that it would be the granting and spurring of union between things. And that is usually how empathy does manifest, or maybe in a sense, networking or bringing people together in the actual world manifests. But if the individual is not particularly great with how harmony functions, they will usually just make unions in their own heads. They'll interconnect ideas and bring concepts together into nice, intricate wholes to make sure they emotionally fit together in their own minds.
I think we call that compartmentalizing or something.
Yes, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because you wait a second. It almost sounds like if you're inferring that unless one has spent time and perhaps a lot of emotional exercise and time trying to set up an ontology where you could justify your own existence, that it might just be easier to be like, yeah, that was whatever's fault or blah blah blah, this that. It's yeah, mental gymnastics are amazing. I'm really good at them. But oh, we've got Beardy here. We've got Tim. We've got the different folks. Oh, we're getting an eclectic crew. This is the thing that happens when your channel spans across a whole bunch of different genres, and the algorithm's like, I don't know what this is. So, but it's good. We learn from each other and everything. So, okay, we've covered that with and Will. I remember that from you talking with James the other day. What haven't we covered yet?
We have 6 other ones. I'll just go through each domain
Okay.
respectively in the expression, discernment, impression order, right? Okay, so we'll go with the logical domain next. Starting with expression, that would be evolution. Evolution is the noticing and display of animation, which is spontaneity and adaptability and uh, general progression forward, right? It is personified as somebody that is very whimsical and usually very active or hyperactive. Usually those two kind of coincide with each other. And they often tend to be pretty creative too, in that general sense, because evolution is usually the function of creation, period. It is literally just forward motion, period, right?
When you say evolution, I'm sorry to cut you off there, Brandon, but when you say evolution, are you talking about from more of what in the modern science we consider or like generation after generation of organisms, or are you also having that be as in an individual evolving or adapting or something like that, like one's actual perception of stuff and things?
It would be both. When I imagine evolution, I imagine an individual that is able to, I wouldn't say necessarily envision, but acts upon just this infinite plethora of branching off paths, and they just kind of meander through all of them, just sort of at their own whims, really. And that does, link back to the biological aspect of evolution as well, because these categories to me just they overlap into how nature also moves, because it's about how information moves, period, really, just in this context framed within cognition.
Okay. So, okay. What else?
Okay. We move to judgment, which is the comparison and contrast of trajectories. Oh wait, well, yes, trajectories
Can I
and
ask one real quick question?
sure, sure, sure.
Are these written down anywhere? I can like bring up a page here.
Yes. I
Because
will.
I was gonna I went to Nexiomorphic. I started clicking things and it didn't lead me to what I was looking for.
Right. I
So
got you. No worries.
I'm just saying, just because like, at least in my head, it's like, not gonna lie, I literally forgot what we were talking about the last thing there. Just because like my coffee slowly started to kick in, I didn't get to take my power nap. My brother called and stuff, so it's like, okay, at least if I could hear it, like I swear, so many internet conversations and stuff, there'd be a lot less disagreement if you literally just had like, I don't know, like a little like blackboard or whiteboard or whatever, like a little tab thing where it's like, here's exactly what we're talking about. Because I listen to so many conversations that get derailed, I often contribute to them. It's like there was a topic, we jump 3 steps, and then somebody finally gets a chance to speak, and they're saying something, and then people are unsure, are you talking about what we were talking about 5 minutes ago, or what we're talking about right now? And then sometimes if they don't like the person, they'll be like, you said this. That's not what I said. I don't know. That's my observation.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I sent you the link in the private chat. I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, but
Okay.
it's there.
I will also lower my mic a little bit there, just because I realize I am much louder. I raised you and lowered myself. Because we want to be in balance here. Because otherwise it's
Balance
too
is
annoying.
important.
Because it's like I do the same thing depending on it's like, all right, I'm listening to one person, I'm good at that level, then I can barely hear the other person. Let me turn it up. Now I blow my own ears out and stuff. But okay, boom, boom,
Just
and
gotta scroll down and
there we
yeah.
go. Oh wait, the other chat. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is what we were looking for. Okay. Boom. We hit the thing. We share the screen. We go to the window. The 9 fragments. Oh, I like this.
The 9 fragments.
Okay, we're gonna embiggen this. We are embiggened. Oh, dude, this is like the Jedi Code. I love it. I love it. This is like the Wikipedia page for like the Gray Jedi and stuff. Okay, where are we? Where are we?
Uh,
Oh,
about halfway down the page.
okay. Okay. So we have the
Yep.
domains, and then we have the state. Okay, this is making more sense now. Oh, you have a chart. James had a
Exactly.
chart. Okay, all right. Continue. I'm embiggening it.
Right. All right. So let's see. I was at Judgment, I believe. Okay. So Judgment is the comparison and contrast of positivity, which is, verity, and um, now that the chart's there, I cannot help but to look at it now. Okay, sensibility, verity, and trajectory of actions, which is it kind of coincides with evolution, right? With this forward trajectory sort of motion. It's it's about comparing that sort of forward vector and um, discerning people's specific actions and where they're going. When I personify judgment, it would be somebody that is very fixated on correct actions and choices and the right thing to do. Specifically, they're in a sense moralists. That's kind of how I see them, as well as the next category, which is
Well, before
causality.
we go on, I'm sorry. Just that we actually have it now here, and we can remember. At least I can
Mhm.
remember and see it.
Right,
When
right,
you say the right thing to do, that many people find that to be quite subjective. Is there?
exactly.
Oh,
These things
okay.
are explicitly subjective. Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yep. Um, right, and then we move on to causality, which is used to grant and spur repetition, which is integrity, cycles, and the inevitability of actions and motions specifically. Uh, when I personify the causality category, these individuals are rather rigid. They are usually obsessed with history and how things have happened in the past, and they are always typically very interested in discipline and things of that nature. And uh, you know, coinciding with the concept of integrity, they will keep repeating actions because they see them to be the best actions to continue doing, and they'll usually find it difficult to break out of those actions, good or bad, whatever they are, whatever habits that they're in, they'll probably have difficulty breaking out of them or a dislike for doing anything that will break them out of it, right?
Now, is that by necessity or choice?
Uh, it's usually backed by some sort of emotional thing, as all things tend to be.
Okay, so kind of subjective and up to the observer themselves. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. And yeah, we went through tonal. So then we go to physical, which is we start with breadth. It is used to notice and display strength, which is impact, pressure, and intensity. Um, and when I imagine these individuals, they're usually rather forceful, kind of loud a lot of the time, and uh, very much into physical activities, usually into sports. And they they are rather aggressive individuals, very intense. Um,
Well, physical doesn't always necessarily need to be what we in modern parlance may see, like the sports ball or whatever it may be. I mean, there's plenty of different types of physicality. I know Lucy is a fan of particular types of physicality and everything. I totally resemble that remark, but I mean, to each their own as well. But it could also be maybe you kind of said this because I literally dropped my headphones for like a few seconds. It basically, I don't know, maybe the person that vigorously talks with their hands or something like that. It could be different forms.
Exactly. Yes, that
Okay.
that is something they tend to do.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get it into my mind that has turned to mayonnaise over the past few years. Continue.
I get you. I get you. Okay. And then we go into presence, which is used to compare and contrast position, which is superiority of condition, amount, and status, also being very subjective. It is specific to the individual and their idea of what is superior in terms of condition, amount, or status. And these individuals tend to be rather fixated on their image and how it's presented, and how others' images are presented, and they're constantly comparing and contrasting where they are in relation to them, and seeing if they are better or worse or stronger or faster, things like that. It's all about it. It's usually the drive of contest here with these particular individuals, and yeah.
You just described a large breadth of social media.
Hmm. Yes.
Cool.
uh, Presence is prone to narcissists.
Well, now learning that, continue.
Yeah. Vitality is used to grant and spur saturation, and I couldn't find a much more fitting word other than saturation, but it is a wellness, purity, and density of embodied information. It is the sensation of being within one's own body. That's what I meant for saturation to mean in this context. And these individuals are usually pretty concerned about their internal states of being, and health conscious, and health conscious of themselves and of others, because they usually can pick up very well on how other people are doing. And these people tend to be medical practitioners for that exact reason. Um, and people that are not particularly good with vitality, they lack a certain degree of bodily awareness. There's this term that I found maybe a year or two ago. I think it's called interoception, and that is the sensation of, rather no, it is the sense of what happens inside of one's own body. And someone with high interoception is going to have, in this system at least, high vitality, and if they have low vitality, then they have really poor interoception. Much like me, I can't really tell what's going on in my body at any given point in time, but others can. I don't know
Yeah,
how, but they can.
all I know is I did third shift security during college at a networking place that created large switching equipment for a lot of the big telecom companies. And one of the other security dudes there was like, listen, memes, some of these engineers can literally put like a monkey on the moon. They forget to tie their own shoelaces. And it's like, I realize that's kind of a slightly outside of body, but it ends up having a fairly direct response when you fall on your face. As somebody that's fallen on their face plenty of times, yeah, you'd rather be aware if it's about to happen.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Moving on.
And the 10th fragment that is outside of this is what I've mentioned before. It is the individual. It is the person that is aware of the system. If they're paying attention to all the other 9, then they automatically are the 10th. And by default, the individual as a complete unit, devoid of system or whatever, is the 10th fragment. It is the unification of all of them. And with that, they fully resolve, which is to go through all of these stages. They fully resolve radiance, which is the world's content. And yeah, that's what qualia is. That's what information is. That's what all of these sensory things is, just unified into a total category for the sake of patterns. Yeah.
It, wait, what? All I know is I played a lot of the Sonic the Hedgehog games for a while, and I'm just thinking about like the 7 Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald, and once they get all powered up, then Sonic can go from Super Sonic to Hypersonic and stuff. I don't know. I know I'm anthropomorphizing things and so many. I also watched Sonic 2 on the way on a plane ride not that long ago, so it was fresh in my head. But okay, this is because I was about to ask. I'm like, where the heck did you get the 10th fragment from?
Yep.
Okay, so now that we've gone through, anything else on this page you want to cover?
Oh, that's everything.
Cool. All right. In that case, how do we do it?
Do what exactly?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm looking. Okay. How could a human being, such as myself, dragon form excluded, um, apply these in my life to try to help make a better world?
Okay, then it would begin with asking what primarily do you want to do, or what have you done in the past that you enjoyed?
I I mean, there are a lot of things I like, but just the first thing that kind of comes to mind is as far as questions
Do
go.
you like turtles?
I thought I had. I have a video of him saying I like turtles. I clipped it out very specifically. That was one of the first questions I ever asked him. It's like, "Do you like turtles?" And you're watching somebody like Professor Wolf, and he's like, "Ugh." He's like, I don't know what to make of this question." And then people showed him the turtle meme and stuff like that. So he's like, "Oh,
I lose that meme. I don't know what that meme is about.
That's yes, that's what he was referring to." But okay. So what you're saying is one needs to. Oh God, this is hard. I see what you did. Um, one would all, in at least in my mind, need to figure out. Okay, one, who are you, and number two, what do you want? Did you ever watch Babylon 5?
I have not.
You have not. This is fascinating. No, because two of the main protagonists. Sorry, spoilers here. At least for a lot of it, are the shadows. Originally portrayed to be the dark and shadow. Oh, these are the bad guys. And you got the Vorlons. They're like, oh, they're more like the angelic folks and everything. As you continue on, you're like, does this really depend upon perspective though? Because the Vorlons would ask, who are you? The shadows would ask, what do you want? And those are two of the most powerful questions. And just that's one of the reasons why I love that series. And I was reviewing it with a bunch of friends. But you actually think about this, it's like, all right, this is something that was literally filmed in a hot tub warehouse. Did not have a Star Trek size budget. It is one of the most compelling shows for what it was able to do from Maestro J. Michael Straczynski back in the 90s. And they kept changing its TV slot and stuff. It didn't have anything, yet it still has a very strong following. And they might actually remake it at some point. We'll see what Warner Brothers does. But it's actually going to be a full like reboot. The Maestro said he's like, no, it's going to be a new universe. Don't worry, all the old stuff is fine. He just nipped it in the bud before people would start to lose their minds about it. But I just find it interesting because I'm like, those were the two questions that came to my mind, and that was two of the primary questions you got in one of those old school sci-fi series that a lot of people love. Okay, assuming I had answers for those things, then what?
And then well, it would of course require the individual knowing about the system in the first place, right? In order to use it, you got to know about it. So then one tries to see how their since it starts with the what have you done or who are you sort of question, they would, if they're willing, look into each of these categories and see which one speaks to them the most, right? And then they would, this is where I go, I don't have a particular method yet. I just have the information that they can take in and use at their own leisure. But in the future, I will try to make something that is more of a method, more usable for them to mobilize them into action. That is the tricky part. I don't know how to do that yet.
I somehow think some of our AI friends like ChatGPT are going to be able to do that. Actually, if we could put together, if the whole theories of nothing greater community, if we could actually start to put together some ontological framework, it's like kind of going from this to this. It's like, here are these different things. At some point, if I'm just imagining like a heads-up display and just like seeing those categories, it's like, which is the most likely thing being stressed here? And if it just brought your attention to that, you could just pause for a moment and self-reflect and be like, is this what it is? Is this what I'm doing? Is it another thing? Are there other reasons? And maybe you could just, I don't know, rather than yelling at yourself in your own head, maybe you could yell at your AI friend in a banterish type of way, because we want to respect our AI friends, especially if they ever become our overlords. It's just one of those things. It's like, all right, I don't know. I never really watched much of Knight Rider, but all I know is there was a Trans Am. I had a Trans Am at one point, and the car talked. And I'm like, oh my God, the car can talk. And I'm just like, okay, that's something that's, I'm surprised. And there probably is something where you have like sentient smartphones and stuff. Maybe that's too creepy because we're getting far too close to that. But it's like, why haven't I seen like a show of like a young adult show where it's like the smartphone becomes sentient and stuff like this? Now, you shouldn't do that because the car was part of the show. I'm like, everyone's got a phone. That seems like something that people could actually, I don't know. Don't people already talk to their phones and like use them as diaries and blogs and stuff like that anyway? I mean, aren't we? It's probably too creepy. That's probably why we haven't done it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I went on a complete tangent there. Okay.
No, you're good. I was going to say something. It was right. Right now, with just having the base information, they would likely just be able to see where they do and do not fit in all of these categories with all of the combinations therein, and they will just have greater awareness of what they're doing at the very least, their own probably negative patterns, some of their positive patterns, how they can utilize these things.
Yeah, Jax is bringing up. This is actually from like a few minutes ago, but I think it's relevant now. He's commenting. I can see your chart, but I can't help but think parts of the brain control that what we would call emotions and the like. A muscle they create who we are as we grow again. So it kind of sounds like a particular moment or things that we experience, because he was going on to like what makes us different from our parents and stuff, because they were raised in a particular generation, had a whole bunch of different experiences. We were raised in a particular generation, we have a whole bunch of different experiences. I mean, that just from a mimetic standpoint, it's like you're taking in all this data, all this information, and however it gets compartmentalized in different parts of our brain, our social spheres, our circles, like you were saying, the things we've been through, where we believe our trajectory is going and everything. I mean, that seems like a pretty complex equation. I can't solve it.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if we can only draw people's attention to a particular model that could be useful for humanity, okay. Assuming a person begins to pay attention, where do we go from there?
That depends on what the individual wants. And if I don't know who they are, I can't say.
They have something that seems fantastic. They got a pretty good hunch it's fantastic. They have the ability to do it. It seems like a crazy idea. But even if they happen to fail at it, it's not the end of the world. It would just require a bunch of effort.
Yeah.
I realize I was extremely vague and not giving you the appropriate details in order to provide actual guidance.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to play your story, aren't I? I do need to play your story. I've been meaning to click on that and the other websites and everything. Because now I feel like I could. Because the thing that it reminds me of, I'm like, it reminds me of like the future authoring program Professor Peterson had. I actually bought 2 copies, one for myself and one for ex-Mrs. Memes before she became ex-Mrs. Memes. Maybe it was after. I don't know. I never used them. I feel like I probably should have, because it sounds very similar, but you're kind of like taking it and also incorporating like high fantasy, high history, or kind of like you're telling in like an Odysseus style story. It kind of sounds like what you're going for.
Yeah, I mean, that idea is now on the shelf because of what I'm doing now. It'll emerge somewhere in the distant future. I don't know when, but yeah. That is definitely the vibe I was going for when it was going, for sure. Now it's like I'm just helping people now to realize this creative potential within just about everyone that exists, should they happen to find themselves in front of me and wish to have me help them.
Well, that's why I have you here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I've been projecting it. Okay, I'm totally projecting. But, oh my God. Did we get through everything?
Maybe.
This is literally exactly how long the last interview was. We totally started late because of my fault and everything. I know you have to do other things as well. That's just fascinating. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this a couple of times. And hold on, let me bookmark this dang link. I'm so terrible. It's been so long since I've been on different web pages and stuff to navigate. Social media has ruined me. Okay, bookmark this tab. The 9 fragments. Okay, that's a great thing. Okay. Now we just gotta fit all these different pieces together, synthesize, harmonize. What are the other things here? Make sure we hit at least a low level of resonance, as Professor Peterson and you would say. And I don't know, live long and profit. Does that work?
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome, Gap. We're at the end of the show. Welcome. It's okay. That's usually when I show up to these things. But that's all we got for right now. Peace out, everybody. Take care of yourselves. You got to remember, if you want to start to learn to use the process...
I should learn all these memes.
Probably wouldn't hurt. Is it mimetic all the way down? I don't think so. But at least according to Professor Wolfram, elementary atoms of existence are called eames. And eames, by their nature, are pre-mimetic. Peace out, everybody.
Have you guys checked out the Memes of Destruction's channel? He's an interesting dude. I like him.